Very good. Commissioner Lee, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Cruz.
Here.
Sorry, let me use my mic. Commissioner Cruz, I'm sorry. Commissioner Foster.
I'm here.
Commissioner Lee, here. Commissioner Mallett? He's,
Commissioner Mallett had previously stated that he would not be available this evening.
okay. Thank you. Commissioner Singh?
I'm looking through my correspondence to see if I've heard from Commissioner Singh. If I find something, I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner
Here.
Commissioner Watkins?
Here.
Commissioner Weber?
Here.
Chairperson Zuber?
I am here, thank you. And let the record reflect that we have Patrick Sloan and Aaron Schluto here from the township, and we also have our consultant, Courtney Agrusa. So, welcome. We have minutes from March 2nd, 2026 to discuss and approve.
I move to approve the minutes from March 2nd.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Weber and support by Commissioner Watkins. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Any nays out there? Okay. We have an agenda to accept. Is there anything to add or delete, Patrick?
No changes to the agenda.
Okay.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Weber and support by Commissioner Lee. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Patrick, how about communications? We got a letter that you forwarded to us before the meeting this evening. Anything else?
No additional communications other than the one public comment we received.
Thank you. Okay, we have a public comment section. If anyone is here to speak about anything that is not on the agenda this evening as a public hearing, which would be the Fowler Creek LLC rezoning. So if you're here then you want to say anything about anything besides that, this is your chance. You will have an opportunity to speak about the Fowler Creek project during our public hearing later. So anybody have anything to talk about besides that? Would you like to come up to the podium, please? Okay. We've had a request for a louder volume.
Our cable division might be able to help with that. If not, we'll just have to make sure to speak directly into our.
I'll
mics.
try to speak
And
closer to the mic.
it's the newer microphones. It's a little bit more difficult to work with, so we'll probably have to speak more directly into them with these types.
Okay, is that better? Okay, sorry. Thank you for pointing that out. All right. Anybody for public comment? Did you have a public comment? I'm sorry, this isn't a Q&A session, so
So
if
that
Patrick, you want to answer that briefly?
Sure. The Fowler Creek, that is agenda item number 5, and there will be a dedicated public hearing for that item. So anyone who wants to speak on the Fowler Creek item, once item 5 in the agenda comes up, there'll be a separate dedicated time for public comment, at which time anyone who wants to comment can go to the microphone, and each person would have up to 3 minutes. So that would be the time in the agenda to ask questions and address that item.
Thank you. Okay, so we have an item of old business on our agenda this evening, or we don't have any items of old business on the agenda this evening. So we will move right into new business. We have an item DIR-PZ-26-0003, I'm sorry, 00043, and that is Newtown Center, where we're considering a site plan amendment for parcel number 039-99-0026-708 at 44740 Ford Road. Property is located at the northwest corner of Sheldon Road and Ford Road. There is a proposed modification to an existing facade. So Patrick, tell us all about it, please.
Sure, thank you. At the old Joanne Fabrics store on the north side of Ford, just west of Sheldon Center, that store has been vacant for a few months now, and Nordstrom Rack proposes to reoccupy the space, and they've obtained their certificate of zoning compliance, and they're currently working with the building division on the reoccupancy permits and building permits for their build-out of the store. One of the proposed changes that they have is modifications to the front facade of the building. And up on the screen here, there's It shows a picture of the existing Joann store where it has the sign, and then underneath the sign in the middle, directly underneath, and then on the right and left-hand side on the columns, there's EFS and some decorative elements there. What Nordstrom Rack proposes to do is to remove the EFS on the columns and underneath the sign. The coping at the very top, to have that as a darker color. It looks black or maybe dark bronze. And then probably the most significant change that's proposed is to stain the front brick as it's shown in this picture here, and I'll zoom in here. And they propose just staining the brick that's shown in the picture here. There are some other columns that are already painted left and right of the entrance. So they may be repainting those and touching those up. Primarily, the staining of the front facade is the main change. Right now, it has its natural color of brick, and the natural color is what was previously approved in the original application when the site was approved several years ago. So whenever there's a major proposed change of staining a brick, we refer those to the Planning Commission just because of the significance of the change. We've done it probably the last few years, we've done it with maybe half a dozen different commercial buildings. Some have proposed paint, some have proposed lime washing. In this case, staining is proposed. Originally, paint had been proposed. We recommended not painting it because paint can encapsulate the brick and trap moisture. So in the freeze-thaw cycle, painting it can actually damage brick. But there are some stains and lime washing that allow the brick to still breathe. So the applicants have proposed a product of stain that will allow it to stay porous and to breathe. And it's like a type of white color. The specifications are included in the packet, but this is a visual representation of what that stain would look like. So our staff recommendation is that if the stain product and the color are acceptable to the Planning Commission, we would recommend approval of the proposed stain of the brick for the facade. So that concludes our staff report, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Patrick. Project sponsor, do you have anything to add? Okay. Said nothing to add for the record. Okay. Very good. Karen, I'll start with you. Any comments, thoughts?
None for me.
Okay. Alan?
No comments.
Commissioner Cruz, I should say. Commissioner Walther. Commissioner Foster.
No comment.
All right. Commissioner Weber.
No comments.
All right. Commissioner Lee.
No,
All
no
right.
comments.
Commissioner Singh.
No comments.
And Commissioner Watkins.
No comments, Madam Chair.
All right. Anyone want to make a motion? I have no problem with this.
I'll make the motion.
All right.
I move to approve planning application PZ26-00043, stain the brick on the front portion of the facade at 44740 Ford Road, parcel number 039990026-708, as illustrated on the plans material submitted by the applicant.
Second.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Weber and support by Commissioner Walther. Any further discussion? All right. Anybody? Commissioner Lee, could you please call the vote?
Yes. Commissioner Cruz.
Yes.
Commissioner Foster.
Yes.
Commissioner Lee. Yes. Commissioner Singh.
Yes.
Commissioner Walther.
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Weber.
Yes.
And Chairperson Zuber.
Yes, motion carries. All right, so Patrick, next steps?
Sure. The next step will be for the applicant to submit any building plans to the building division for those changes, and the planning division can approve those changes as part of that permit. There's a separate permit that's already in for building. We've approved the planning division portion of that, so those permits can proceed.
Okay, awesome. Good luck. All right, next item on the agenda is ZCSS-PZ. I feel like I'm at the eye doctor for some reason. PZ 26-00056, TNT Fireworks, where we're considering a seasonal sales permit on parcel number 058-99-0003-723 also known as 45001 Ford Road. That property is located on the south side of Ford Road between North Canton Center and North Sheldon. Proposed use is a seasonal retail fireworks sales tent and associated storage for the period of 6/18/26 to 7/10/26. Patrick, tell us more.
Sure, thank you. The TNT Fireworks has operated out of the Meyer parking lot for several years, and in this plan, it shows where the tent has been located the last several years between Meyer and the Tim Hortons restaurant, kind of on the northeast corner of that parking lot. And in 2022, TNT proposed to operate at this location, and the application was approved, and the Planning Commission also adopted a motion that allows Planning Division staff to approve annual renewals of that seasonal sales permit, as long as there are no material changes from previous years. And so from 2023 through 2025, the tent was located in the exact same location, no material changes, so staff had approved that seasonal sales permit. In 2026, there's a relatively minor change, and that is to add a storage pod. It's this green rectangle just west of the tent. The tent is proposed to be located in the same area as it has been with in previous years. So the location of the tent, the merchandise, the operations, that won't change. The only proposed change on this plan is the addition of a pod storage in order to allow materials to be stored somewhere away from the tent, but also in close proximity. So that location of the pod is the only significant change. The pod will occupy 2 parking spaces. There's going to be sufficient parking for the rest of the operation, and the pod meets all the required setbacks from surrounding residences and zoning districts. So that concludes our staff report, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, excellent. Is the project sponsor here? Do you have anything to add to what Patrick just said? Okay, not really. Can you go to the mic so we have you on the recording, please? Thank you. And tell us your name and address for the record.
Sure, good evening, Commission. Chuck Freeze out of Three Rivers, Michigan with TNT Fireworks. As you said, it's just a little pod storage device to keep the cardboard and things a little cleaner. Volume that we've been doing there, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. All right. Patrick, I have a question because on the aerial map, it shows the pod in a different location. So I assume this is accurate on this drawing?
Yeah, the aerial map, there was a previous version that showed the pod east of the tent, and the pod had actually been east of the tent would be within the 250-foot setback from the residential district farther to the east. So I think the map was created, and then once we had measured the setback, saw that was under 250, we contacted the applicant, and then they promptly revised the plan and showed it west of.
Thank you for clarifying
So the
that.
plan is the one that would prevail.
Okay. Anybody on the commission have a problem with this? Okay, I'm entertaining a motion.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Brian's being awfully quiet tonight, so. I move to approve planning application PZ 26-00056 for 130-day seasonal sales permit for the TNT Fireworks Company at 45001 Ford Road, parcel 058-99-0003-723, commencing on June 18th, 2026, as shown on the plans, and subject to obtaining appropriate permits and inspections from the Building and Inspection Services Division for the tent and any applicable signage. Further, I move to allow staff to approve annual renewals for seasonal sales permits that do not have any material change from the previous year, with material changes determined at staff's discretion.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Weber and support by Commissioner Foster. Any further discussion? All right, Commissioner Lee, could you please call the vote?
Commissioner Cruz,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee, yes. Commissioner Singh,
Yes.
Commissioner Walther,
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Weber,
Yes.
and Chairperson Zuber.
Yes, motion carries. All right, next steps, Patrick?
Next steps are staff will approve the seasonal sales permit as proposed, so we'll probably get that signed off on this week. and the applicant will be ready to go.
Awesome, thank you. All right, we wish them the best. Item number 3 on our agenda is 044-SPC-7782, the Shops on Ford, where we're considering a site plan for parcel number 044-99-0011-701. This property is located on the north side of Ford Road between North Lily Road and North Haggerty Road, and it is a proposed new construction of a multi-tenant shopping center. Patrick, tell us more.
Sure, thank you. The proposed development is a multi-tenant retail shopping center located on the north side of Ford Road. And specifically, the location is, it's in the vacant parking lot, one of the few undeveloped areas in the Ford Road commercial corridor that has Ford Road frontage, and specifically located between Buffalo Wild Wings and the Verizon store along Ford Road. And it's in front of the multi-tenant center with Marshalls and Five Below and Dunham's. And this site has been vacant for a number of years. Our understanding, and the applicant can speak to this in more detail, but our understanding is that there's an easement on this property that restricts or prohibits development in order to have visibility from Ford Road to the main shopping center to the north. And our understanding is that this easement will be expiring within the next few years. And as such, the project is proposed in 2 phases. And the first phase is to construct the western 62 feet of the building before the easement expires. And the second phase is to construct the eastern 50 foot 8 inches of that building once the easement expires. And so we recommend that a phase 1 site plan design be included so that it shows the lawn areas in the underdeveloped portion of the phase 2. And again, the applicant can probably give more information regarding any kind of easement or terms and the phasing of the property. So here is the general location of the site, and we'll bring up the plans on the screen here. And we'll start with just the black and white plans. So the parking will be in the front on the south side with the building on the north side. As you can see in the plan, the parking lot in the front will generally align with the parking lots to the west and to the east. In terms of the access management, the only access into the site will be from the common drive to the north, or from the adjacent Buffalo Wild Wings site to the west. I'll zoom in a little bit more to the southeast corner. There is the boundary of the parking lot, and there's a little bit of curbing here for turning around, but there's a hard curb here. So there won't be traffic turning into this site so close to Ford Road. So if there's traffic coming from Ford Road, the traffic will have to go all the way north to that common drive and then turn in from the north. This way, if there are cars and they're waiting to turn left because of traffic, that allows for a lot of stacking along this drive. Some other elements of the site are that recently there was an easement that was given to MDOT. As you probably know, MDOT is proposing a boulevard project along Ford Road, and the project has been in the plan design stages for a few years, and the final designs are in the process of coming together, and there's more information on MDOT's website in terms of the timing of it and some of the initial designs of the plan. And in the frontage area here, and this dashed line is the easement that was provided to MDOT. So what that does is it effectively narrows the landscaping area along the frontage of Ford Road. In the long range, I don't think that this will be unique in terms of additional easements being granted to MDOT and having some narrowing of the front landscape areas along Ford Road in the Central Business District and DDA area. But a lot of the actual width of that frontage landscaping will depend on what MDOT does within that easement area. Looking at MDOT's most recent plans, it appears that the sidewalk illustrated on the most recent plans is very close to the existing sidewalk that's there today. And so it is possible that although MDOT has additional easement here, and this easement I think is 9 feet wide, it is possible there may be very limited development within that easement. More than likely, having underground utilities, but the sidewalk may be in its current location, and we may get the full landscape width here of 25 feet required by the ordinance. I'll bring up the aerial map to try to illustrate this in a little bit more detail. So it's a little difficult to see, but underneath the boundary line that's in yellow, there's the sidewalk there. And then south of the sidewalk, there's quite a bit of green space there, almost enough space for an additional lane. So if there's widening of the road, there's some existing easement in which to widen the lane. With that additional 9 feet that MDOT acquired, they can move the sidewalk north. That can allow for further widening. So that will be known once MDOT has the final designs. But as these go along the corridor and these easements get acquired, it's going to be looked at on a case-by-case basis in terms of what the impacts are. Probably the greatest impacts on sites will be their frontage landscape area. In some cases, some sites may have their parking impacted by potential easement areas. But in the case of this site here, the biggest site impact is just the width of the landscape area going from 25 feet down to 16 feet based on the easement. And again, it is possible that once the boulevard and everything is rebuilt, it is possible to have the full 25 feet width of landscaping. Some of it would just be in MDOT's easement. So just a little tidbit there in terms of the boulevard and the easement. And in the future, as we see more projects along Ford Road, this will continue to come up in terms of any new easement areas and any new plans that are available from MDOT at that time. Some of the next areas that we'll look at, I'll kind of skip through some of the design things in terms of circulation and photometrics and things of that nature. Most of the standards of the ordinance are met other than where we note at the end of our report in terms of our recommended conditions of approval. And here's on one page the black and whites of the shopping center. So there will be a color version of this I'll show in a minute. The color version that's in the packet is based on a previous version of the plan, so the color version of the plan was updated. But the front of it will be mostly glass, and the ordinance requires at least 60% glass the frontage. The primary masonry material will be brick, like a dark gray brick. And then on some of the upper areas, there's a burnished block that's like a tan color. And then above one of the main shopping tenant areas, rather than brick and burnished block, it's going to be a fiber cement siding. Along each tenant center, there's a brick column to provide depth. And there are some varying heights of parapet walls to provide a little bit of vertical breakup of the facade. In the rear part of the facade, let me go to the north part. There we go. So on the north elevation, they're also proposing columns to break up the long expanse. This is the rear portion. And on the ends, they propose glass and then rear doors on each side. And then both the east and the west sides will have glass near the front and then columns along the sides to break up that long expanse of facades. And the zoning ordinance has design standards that are separate for shopping centers and the DDA areas. Many of those standards overlap, but between commercial shopping centers and DDA areas, there are some differences, some minor differences between those and how they overlap and interplay. So in terms of the development itself, we recommend 4 conditions. The first is selecting a grout color that's lighter than the brick. In the material table on the architectural page, it states proposing a black grout. A black grout with a dark gray brick is pretty stark, quite different than what we have on Ford Road. We have had a few buildings recently where a darker gray brick has been used and looks good, but in those cases, the grout has been significantly lighter than the masonry material. So we recommend a lighter grout. The second condition is including community amenities on the site that are required by the ordinance. Community amenities can be, they can be artwork, and in this case, the site's in the DDA, so there's an opportunity to dedicate an area of the site for art as part of the DDA's art program. There can be other amenities that are closer to the building. One of the amenities is already there, and that is allowing outdoor dining in the southwest and southeast parts of the building. There are areas where those particular tenants could have outdoor dining, and that's an amenity. Other amenities could also include bicycle racks and like clock towers, things like that. The third recommended condition is updating the photometric plan to show illumination on the east side of the building, and lowering the poles according to the zoning ordinance. On the east side of the building, the fixtures are shown on the photometric plan. It's just the illumination was not included, so I think it's just a labeling once that's inputted into the plan. And then the fourth and final condition we recommend is that the applicant include a Phase 1 site plan that shows the lawn area in the undeveloped portion of Phase 2. That way, if there's a long time period between Phase 1 and Phase 2, we at least have a Phase 2 area that's somewhat finished. So that concludes our staff report on this one, and we'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Patrick. Is the project sponsor here? Would you like to say anything, to add anything to what Patrick already said? And-
Hello, I'm Evan Priest. We prepared the site plan for the project. Patrick for his, as usual, comprehensive introduction to the project, and I'm not sure in light of that I have much to add.
Asmar, West Bloomfield, Michigan, representing the owner. If you guys have any questions, I know it's kind of different with the Phase 1, Phase 2 of the design.
Yeah, tell us your name again, I'm sorry.
Randy Asmar.
Asmar, okay, thank you. All right, anybody have any?
I do.
All right, well, let's start with Commissioner Weber.
Can you tell me a little more about this easement? Was that required by the township, or was that required by the original developer?
In the original development, the REA for the whole property with the big shopping center behind coincides with the neighboring tenants with Buffalo Wild Wings and the Verizon shopping center owners as well. So there's a lot of deeded restrictions on the site throughout the whole property.
So this easement is expiring?
The easement regarding the development of the size of the square footage of the thing will expire depending on a tenant in the back's lease. So as of right now, the way the building sits, on that site, only 5,000 square feet can be developed. And that's what's being proposed, and that restriction will leave in potentially 2 to 3 years.
If that tenant leaves?
Correct, or it will dissolve off if they extend. But it's all controlled by the main property owner, which is, I believe, Ford Lilly, who owns the shopping center behind.
I'm just concerned that you build the first phase of this and the other part never gets developed, and I don't like the looks of that, but, okay, that answers my question.
The idea is
progress
the
down.
grass area that will be there in the temporary, the building will still be designed in a full finished phase, even as 5,000 square feet. And that grass area that, call it pad-ready site, will be used as a landscaping and potentially like eating space in the meantime. So it will never look unfinished. It's just there's a potential of an addition to it. And the idea of attaching it to it now falls into where the building can be matching as opposed to if building codes change. So if you see right now, that is with this Phase 1 of the building will still look complete. It won't be like just a block siding.
No, I understand that. I'm talking more just about, we'll have this building sitting there that's, when the plan shows something, say 10,000 square feet, and it ends up being 5,000 square feet. And I guess at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal, but I guess my feeling is I just as soon see the project get developed in its entirety from day one, but if there's legal agreements in place preventing that, I understand.
I don't think it'll ever be noticed by someone passing by that this is, you know, unfinished, looking to become something in the future. It's just would be an addition later.
Okay.
And that was Patrick's intent on the whole design aspect of it, to make sure that it didn't look that way.
Commissioner Foster?
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Cruz?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Talk closer to the mic.
So the easement, has anyone legally reviewed this easement? My fear is the same that, as Mr. Weber said, that what if there's a hiccup and are they able to renew that easement? Or
That's-
does it just
so
disappear?
The actual square footage is not in the actual REA. It is actually in the tenant's lease. That would fall off. The REA restricts the 5,000, and
Okay.
it would add back in later on if the tenant, once it falls off from the tenant.
So once it falls off,
Because once the tenant hits the renewal option, it'll
Yeah.
fall.
it falls off, but
The square footage restriction, because it's their line of sight restriction.
okay.
So there's also other restrictions in there that wouldn't really apply to us, like
I
height
guess my
restrictions.
question is, when it falls off, usually with an easement, there may be a mechanism that they have the option to renew or reinstate the easement.
It's not, it's a lease restriction. It's not actually recorded in the easement for that specific portion.
Okay.
But the property has to conform to the tenant or the landlord behind that in the REA. So when we're talking about the square footage restriction is not in the REA. It's us having to agree with the tenant or the landlord behind us that has the restriction in their lease.
So it's not really an easement, it's more.
Correct.
It's just a,
Just a restriction.
you know,
Okay, so that language
Not
is wrong.
recorded.
It's not an easement.
No, it's the
Because it's not recorded in the
Correct.
title.
That is correct.
Okay, but it's a restriction by the owner.
In the REA.
Yeah. Okay, so has the owner seen and blessed these plans?
Yes.
Do we have something that verifies that? I mean, is there some assurance? What if they back it out and say, no, we changed our mind, you can't do that?
It's already been approved by the negotiations of the property.
Patrick, I want to see that. I want some assurance. Or someone on the township behalf has to confirm before we approve something like that. I'm okay with approving it contingent upon that, but there has to be some assurance with the township that that agreement is in place.
Okay.
Okay,
That the design aspect of the phases is agreed upon.
that owner is agreeing to your design,
Okay.
and it doesn't violate the restriction, right? Are we in agreement on that?
Yeah, we can include that as we recommend 4 conditions. We can include that as a 5th or a subsequent condition.
Okay. The second item, is that at Ford Road where that existing sidewalk is? Is that proposed sidewalk where that crosshatch is that proposed or existing?
Can't hear you.
That's the existing DDA wall.
Now,
Whole thing?
can you show like the ADA spots with that striping? Oh, pan down a little.
He said DDA wall.
I'm sorry, there is a walk connecting the parking lot to the existing walk on Ford.
Can you zoom out a little, please? There. So that's an existing walk?
No, that's proposed.
Okay. What I suggest is, if that's proposed, I think the ADA striping should line up with that, and you create a crosswalk. So you could just shift it over, those ADA spaces, or shift over the proposed wall, just so that there's a clear crosswalk connection, just striping exercise. It's a better design. You okay with that? And then just the last thing is, do you have tenants already agreed to these yet? You have none yet? Okay. That's all I got.
Okay. Commissioner Walther.
Nothing for me.
Okay. Commissioner Lee.
You answered my questions.
Okay. Commissioner Singh.
Just a clarification, that crosswalk seems like it's an existing walk already connecting to the Ford Road walkway. I just looked at the satellite.
Yeah, we can put up a current aerial here that's going to be a little bit sharper.
Okay,
Yes.
that walk is there, I don't, you know. Sure.
So the point is, try to make it as perpendicular as possible, not diagonal, so adjust your striping accordingly, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If that walk is existing, move your ADA spots so it lines up at least. It's a safer design.
Yeah, so I think that would just be where there's the space here, doing the cross striping there,
Yeah,
and
just
shifting
moving
the
those
spaces
spots.
over.
Yeah, makes sense.
You won't lose any spots.
No.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
My only other concerns, Patrick, are the parking. I know Buffalo Wild Wing has a very heavy patronage. A lot of people park in that parking spot right now. If you go in the evening, it's pretty much half full, sometimes more than half full. So are we using the parking lot in the main parking area as in calculation, or these are enough spots here?
Yeah, actually with Buffalo Wild Wings, the way that their parcel is, they don't really have wayfinding signage for this, but their, I guess, I'll call it access parking or auxiliary parking is actually north. So on their property, if there's overflow in the main parking lot, most people are gonna park to the east. I've done it myself. But actually, where there's, where there's a new use, those spaces are occupied. Actually, the spaces will have to park farther north, and I parked there too for Buffalo Wild Wings.
All right, that's all, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Watkins.
Thanks so much. So just a couple quick things. You know, when you start to look at Ford Road, it's just, for me, it's notorious to think about on that north side, right? Especially in the area that we're talking about developing. It's that last piece that kind of blocks the visibility into the greater development that's there. It fills it in, and now we have no visibility as you travel westbound to the greater development that's behind it. And I get it. Listen, look, I do this every day, and density is the key here, right? What bothers me is the fact that MDOT's coming along in a little bit, and they're going to start the project. Now, everyone understands that that is not a completed project yet. We don't know the specifics of what's going to happen on the Ford Road frontage, and that's what troubles me with filling in that last piece with, a project that's going to come out in 2 phases. We don't know what MDOT wants to do. We know it's coming in 28 or 29, and to be able to finish this in the way that you want to finish it, what you've told us, you're relying on the fact that nothing in the current MDOT plan has changed. My question to you is going to be this: I don't know how much of this you've made comfortable with MDOT. Have you talked with them? Do they understand what you're trying to do? And do you understand where they're going with the Ford Road project? Again, nothing against what you're trying to do, but I am really worried that things will change in the greatest way possible between Haggerty and Lilly, and even further west, that could affect your project, especially in its phased projection. So again, I guess my question is going to be, you've heard my comments, but my question is going to be your degree of comfortability with MDOT. Thank you.
Oh, okay. We've sent these plans to MDOT. We've requested plans from MDOT, and this project, while this, when this REA issue came to light at some point, we originally were proposing this a few years ago. Yeah. And then that came up, and we have in the ensuing years, made many attempts to contact MDOT to flesh out what exactly they wanted here. And they never said anything to us whatsoever, except eventually they produced this 9-foot easement. So what we know about it is what's available on their website publicly. We don't know much more than that, as maybe you don't either. I think Patrick has seen some stuff maybe, but I don't believe they're planning on changing any entrance locations or anything other than widening out to use that 9 feet, which I'm sure they have some idea of what they want it for. But I can't really imagine that whatever they do with widening that road and putting those crossovers in will affect what we're proposing here, as we're not proposing any new curb cuts. And they're going to certainly have to preserve what's already out there in terms of access to Ford Road, getting in and out of these developments that exist already. So I'm not sure how to answer your question, because I don't know if I share your concern. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm missing what you're thinking about.
And I can add to that a little bit. What we know from MDOT is they've been making contact with property owners along Ford Road, and it's been between MDOT and their consultants and the property owners. And so MDOT has been approaching certain property owners with requests for easements, and everyone is a little bit different based on the design. MDOT has acquired a 9-foot easement along the frontage of this property, and it's between the bold line here and this dashed line to the. So as far as we know, that's as much as MDOT will need from this site. They've been very specific with their requests, and 9 feet is a pretty specific number, not rounded to 10 or down to 5. So we assume that that is appropriate for what MDOT's proposing for the corridor. And there are several easements that have been acquired by MDOT throughout the corridor of different widths from the existing right-of-way. One other item I will bring up, and this was from MDOT's website. They had a public information session, I think it was maybe last August. And so they had presented some concept plans. So these aren't engineered plans, they're just conceptual only of what it's proposed to look like, and it's on MDOT's website. And so when we zoom into here, the blue is the sidewalk, and the sidewalk on this concept plan is just about where the current sidewalk is. So ideally, within that 9 feet that MDOT required, there would just be utilities, and then we could keep the green space. However, I don't think there's any restrictions on the 9 feet, so based on that, if they needed to move that sidewalk another 9 feet to the north, they could. The biggest impact would just be a narrowing of that landscape area.
I think in addition to that, if you see in the site plan, there is no more left into that entrance on that curb cut. So it'll smooth out any traffic flow that this building will drive traffic to, like the major power center that's behind. So it really won't affect any traffic or people pulling in. With that new boulevard, you're gonna kind of have to know your destination when you get onto Ford Road.
For sure, thank you so much. Our closing comment is, when you close up that last outlot, it's pretty dense on the north side. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah. I just have one question, and that is, the project will be built in 2 phases. The building is going to be built in 2 phases, correct? And the parking lot will all be built at once?
Parking lot and that temporary grass area
Yeah.
will be fully grassed, and we can put some benches there and some design aspects to kind of beautify it up.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Entertaining a motion.
Can I ask a question of Patrick real quick?
Sure.
Patrick, have you seen this, have you seen the document that has this restriction in it regarding the, I'll call it easement, even though it's not really an easement? Have you,
I can't remember if I've ever seen a document with it. I don't remember if I've seen it before or not. I have heard about it for a number of years.
Point of order, I'm sorry, go ahead, Doug, I'm sorry.
I'm kind of leaning where Commissioner Cruz was, where he wants to see some sign off from the shopping center owner behind about this, but truthfully, I wouldn't mind seeing that document, and they can redact whatever other information is in that agreement, but I would really kind of like to see the language of that that restriction or for whatever it is. And if we can add that as a condition to the motion, I'd appreciate it.
So we don't have, we can add that to it. Because we're dealing with another landlord and another lease, we haven't even seen anything except for the excerpt from the lease. So we don't have the whole document to go
I don't want
off
to
of.
see the whole document. I want to see
So
that line.
I can get that line. That's a different line than I believe you were asking for. You were asking for the approval of the shopping center, not the language in the lease with the, get both of those for you.
Yeah, we should get both.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we're taking your word for it.
Yeah, of course.
And it affects the township if, for some reason, half of it or something gets half developed, we have an eyesore and someone overlooked this issue. So
I understand. We can
it's an
get both of
important
those for you.
issue.
But it will just be an excerpt because that's all we've seen.
As long as there's something in that excerpt that ties it to the full agreement, I'm okay with that. I just don't want to see a paragraph that looks like it could be out of any document, if you understand what I'm saying.
All right. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll take the motion, Madam Chair. I move to recommend approval of the site plan for shopping center and planning application 0044-SBC-7782 on parcel 044-99-011-701, subject to all state, county, and township requirements and subject to the following conditions. 1, selecting a grout color that is lighter than the brick. 2, including community amenities on the site required by section 6.06C2 and section 6.01E7F in the zoning ordinance. 3, updating the photometric plan to show the illumination on the east side of the building and lowering the light poles pursuant to section 2.13 of the zoning ordinance. And 4, submitting a Phase 1 site plan that shows lawn area in the undeveloped portion of Phase 2. And I think we're going to add 5, am I right? And that is upon submission of the easement agreement in two parts from the lease agreement from the other owner, I think is the way we're codifying it.
Restriction language, it's not an easement, correct?
It'll be restriction language and approved design development.
Approval from the owner of the property. Those
Got it. So I'm in the motion, the approval from the owner of the property as well as the second piece, the what do we call it, an REA? I had never heard of that before in my life. Reciprocal easement agreement, correct?
restriction language from the REA, is it,
Restriction language from the lease.
from the lease?
And
That's
then
fine.
approval from the REA for the design element.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep,
Subject to both documents
yep.
as stated. There we go. Does that work? Corporate counsel, Corporation Counsel? All right, thank you so much. All right.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Watkins and support by Commissioner Singh. Any further discussion? Commissioner Lee, could you please call the vote?
Commissioner Cruz.
Yes,
Commissioner Foster.
Yes.
Commissioner Lee, yes. Commissioner Singh.
Yes.
Commissioner Walther.
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Weber.
Yes.
And Chairperson Zuber.
Yes, motion carries. What's the next steps, Patrick?
So the next steps will be for these conditions to be incorporated into revised plans, and including the fifth condition that was added by the Planning Commission. And then once those conditions are satisfied, the plans are revised, they will proceed to the Township Board of Trustees for final action.
Madam Chair, one final point of order, if I might ask Corporation Counsel, the review of the docs that we've recorded in the amended motion would be reviewed by Township Legal or Planning Commission staff?
I always forget about this thing. You could do either. I mean, if they want to consult with us, they can do that. You don't have to necessarily direct them to do so. Is that what you're asking?
Just which entity reviews, and Doug, I think you know where I'm getting at. Is it the legal documents, will they be reviewed by Township Legal and not necessarily at the administrative level by again, Patrick and team?
Yeah, if there's a legal question that requires that we review the legal documents, then we will go through that.
Got it.
Just the documents like you're referring to, where you just want to see specific language to confirm, the conditions, that could be reviewed internally. So
Got
it
it.
really just depends on the substance.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, you bet. All right, next item on our agenda is item number 4 under new business, the 2025 annual report and 2026 work plan.
Yes.
Erin, tell us all about it.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. So included in your packet this evening is the 2025 Annual Planning Commission Activity Report and 2026 Work Plan. This is provided to you in compliance with the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, which requires the Planning Commission to make the annual written report to the Township Board about all activities, operations, and status of planning projects that have been before this body and then have been sent to the Township Board. So included in ours, we go a little bit above and beyond of just kind of giving you the summary of what you've looked at, but we also include what the planning division activities have been and how many projects and how many development reviews we've done, how many applicant meetings we've had, the planning commission meetings, zoning board of appeals meetings, any projects and zoning ordinance updates that we have undergone as part of our objectives. The master plan, we adopted that last year, so yay. And then how we're going to start implementing its vision. Any other updates or accomplishments, we include in there things related to the DDA, our sidewalk program, and our GIS updates. We also include references to how all of these activities will comply or will follow the strategic plan that the Township Board adopted in 2023. And we've also included here a number of tasks that we would like to accomplish in 2026. Some of these will be just started because they're part of a larger project that could span months or years, but some of them are certainly able to be done within a few short months. So they're just a reference point, so you know that while we don't see you every day, you know that we're working hard behind the scenes. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody from the commission have any questions?
Just one point of order, Madam Chair. I just want to say, just publicly to Planning Commission staff, what a tremendous level of work you guys are doing, have accomplished in 2025, and that you look to achieve in 2026, including the master plan, which was no small feat, including the things that are going on regional transit. It is a phenomenal amount of work, and you all are doing a fantastic job, just for the record. Thank you.
Second that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
all in favor?
Definitely agree with that.
Yeah, thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on our agenda is a public hearing. It is item number 5, RZ-P.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. There needs to be a motion
Oh.
to approve it and to send it to the Township Board.
Thank you, sorry. Okay, perfect. All right. Anybody want to make a motion to approve this and send it to the Township Board?
Madam Chair, motion to send to Township Board.
Second.
Do you want to approve it too?
Oh, approve it, yes.
All right, we have a motion on the table by Commissioner Watkins and support by Commissioner Lee. Any further discussion? All right, Commissioner Lee, could you please call the vote?
Commissioner Cruz,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee, yes. Commissioner Singh,
Yes.
Commissioner Walther,
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Weber,
Yes.
and Chairperson Zuber.
Yes, motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda is item number 5, and it is RZ-PZ 26-00048. This is Fowler Creek LLC rezoning, where we're considering rezoning for several parcels. I'm not going to read all those off. These properties are located on the west side of Bar Road between Mott and Geddes. The proposed rezoning of properties, boundaries, and zoning districts contained in the Planning Commission packet. Proposed rezoning is from RA, Rural Agricultural, to R2, R3, and R4, Single Family Residential. Patrick, tell us all about it, please.
Sure, thank you. The site that's proposed for redevelopment is located at the southwest corner of Geddes and Bar. Specifically, it's located south side of Geddes, west side of Bar, north side of Mott Road, and the western boundary of the site is actually the western boundary of Canton Township. And some areas that are around it. Directly to the south side of Mott Road is in Van Buren Township in Wayne County. Some of the surrounding areas you're going to be familiar with. North side of Getty's is a proposed development of Everbrook, which we've reviewed over the last several months. To the east side of the site, east of Bar Road, is Grandview Estates and Grandview South that the Planning Commission reviewed a few years ago. And southwest of the site are two manufactured housing parks. And the site is currently used for agricultural use. And bringing up the zoning map here, it's a little difficult to see the entire site, but the entire site is hatched. It's the subject site that the applicants have. And even though this area in the southwest is hatched under R4, it's already zoned to R4, so it's not subject to this specific request. And on the zoning map, as you see with most of the site, it has a zoning of RA, rural agricultural. And that's the one zone in the community that we allow for farming. Next, I want to go to the future land use map of our master plan just to kind of illustrate some of the boundaries. So in this northern area that's yellow, in the master plan that's recommended for 2 units per acre. This middle area that's a darker yellow is recommended in the master plan for 3 units an acre. And then this light orange area to the south is recommended in the master plan as 4 units per acre. And some of these future land use districts, they split through a parcel. So in our staff report, we note these as areas A to the north, area B in the middle, and area C to the south. The applicant is proposing to rezone the site to R2 in area A, R3 in area B, and R4 in area C. And the applicant proposes to rezone it according to what's recommended in the master plan. So the R2 district proposed on the north side of the site corresponds to 2 units per acre. The middle of the site, the proposed R3 district corresponds to 3 units per acre approximately. And in the south side, the R4 district corresponds to roughly 4 units per acre. In terms of some history of this site, many years ago in 2004, areas A, B, and C were actually rezoned from RA to R2, R3, and R4 respectively. So it was a little unusual to see 22 years later an identical rezoning application. And what happened back in 2004 is that the areas were rezoned to R2, R3, and R4, just like they're proposed this evening. And there was a development that was proposed at that time called Ridgewood Manor. The Ridgewood Manor development was not pursued. And in the 2000s, that's when we had a big housing crash nationally. So a lot of projects were put on hold and canceled. This was one of them. Subsequent to that, there was a farmer who acquired these properties and applied to rezone them back to the RA district. And so in 2013, these parcels were rezoned back into the RA from the R2, R3, and R4. And having that RA district allowed the continuation and expansion of the farm. So that's just a little bit of the history of the site. Some natural features of the site that we want to call out. I'm going to bring up the aerial photo on the screen just so that we can kind of go through what's there on the site. So on the site here is an aerial map of the site. And just to have our bearings here, the north side of the site is Getty's Road, west to east. The east side bordering the site, this is Bar Road. And then just on the south side of the site, there's Mott Road. And this doesn't have the parcel lines on it, but most of this area here is area subject to the request. And I want to bring this up just to illustrate some of the natural features that are in the area. So first off, there are a couple of creeks that go through the site. The first one that we're probably most familiar with is Fowler Creek. And it enters the site from the west, from Superior Township. And it goes through the site, it goes northeasterly, and then it goes northerly through the site, and then it goes under Getty's Road northward to the site to the north. To the north is the proposed Everbrook development. So we've looked at Fowler Creek as it goes through Everbrook, and when we review the plans, we know it as just something that enters from the south side of Getty's. Well, this is the site where it enters from. So it's an agricultural site where agricultural drainage goes into the creek and flows northward. And it also comes from the west, from Superior Township. Around this creek, this orange area, this indicates the 100-year floodplain. So there is an existing mapped floodplain by FEMA that is around the Fowler Creek area. Now, the mapped floodplain doesn't always indicate where the water goes during a 100-year flood, but it's just the mapped floodplain that FEMA has. The Second Creek area is more central to the site, and it flows underneath Bar Road. And this is the creek, and it runs through Grandview, and then it continues to run through Grandview, and then outlets on the north side of the site. As far as I know, this is an unnamed creek. One of the unique elements of this is that in the case of Fowler Creek to the north, we know where it flows from to the west. This creek, the map shows it starting right in the middle of the site and then becoming a creek and then flowing westward or eastward underneath Bar Road and then going north. It's possible that the creation of this creek could be from agricultural underground drainage, like drainage tiles. So if there are underground drainage tiles, they could potentially drain to this creek and contribute to the headwater of it. So that is something that would have to be investigated underground, determine the locations of the tiles and the impacts, the upstream impacts of the creek, as well as the impacts on the site itself. So that's one environmental feature of the site that would have to be studied during the course of any pre-development phase or any site design. Some other natural features that are on the site, there's a dense woodland area that's in the center of the site on the east side. This has been a woodland area for many years, and there are some maps from the state that indicate that those wooded areas could be wetlands. If the trees haven't been removed and the site farmed, it could be because there are regulated wetlands there. The state map for wetlands is relatively general, but they do look at aerial photos, they look at hydric soils, they look at the National Wetlands Inventory. So there's a strong possibility that much of the woodland area is wetlands, in which case, because of their proximity to a waterway, they would be regulated by the state of Michigan. So that's kind of a synopsis of some of the natural features that are occurring on the site. As a lot of us are familiar with, we've had heavy rains over the last few years that have impacted this area of the community and specifically impacted the residential development at Grandview Estates and Grandview South. And roughly a year ago, the Municipal Services Department staff of Canton Township, including Planning Division staff, met with Wayne County representatives and met with representatives of Pulte at the Grandview site just to discuss the overall drainage of the area, much of which is outside of the Grandview development area. In other words, outside the scope of that particular development. And we had that meeting with Wayne County to talk about some strategies that could be implemented to try to provide relief to some of the flooding that was happening in the area and some of the impact on the storms. And so shortly after that meeting, like I said, roughly about a year ago, both Wayne County and Pulte had, in conjunction, started some area-wide maintenance improvements, and that included a number of different things. And this aerial photo on the screen is from April 17th of 2025, and we'll be able to see some of the improvements that were taking place. So one of the improvements was on the north side of the site here. This is Fowler Creek, and this is going underneath Getty's Road. And there's some heavy equipment here. And before, if I went to the aerial photo taken before, this area is overgrown with vegetation. That's in October 2024. We skip ahead to April 17th. That vegetation is cleaned, the debris is cleared, and the water can cleanly flow northward underneath Getty's going north. And at previous Planning Commission meetings, when the Everbrook development was considered, the applicant had given a slideshow of all the different blockages and sediment that were in many of these creek areas. And I think this was one of the pictures they had where there was a lot of sediment in this creek. That's since been cleaned out. That maintenance took place, according to the aerials, roughly April of 2025, about a year ago. So there was some maintenance there that allowed that creek to flow. Also, on Bar Road, there was some gravel added to Bar Road. It may have been elevated maybe about 6 inches with a crown, and I think one of the purposes of that was to try to hold back some of the sheet flow. Some of the stormwater complaints that we had heard about with regard to Grandview is that during a heavy rain, some of the water would just sheet flow across Bar Road from the agricultural field. So there were a couple of strategies that were implemented. First, there was gravel added to Bar Road. I think it was raised roughly 6 inches, and that allowed raising of the road. Also, there was cleaning out of the ditches. And we can see in this aerial photo here where there's a machine digging out a ditch on the west side of Bar Road to allow that water to be held back and channeled. So that, in conjunction with adding gravel to the road, has helped in the area. I'm not saying it's a cure-all or a panacea, but those are some strategies that were implemented roughly about a year ago to try to help with the overall drainage in the area. At previous meetings, the applicants for Everbrook have discussed some of the ongoing maintenance that they've done on the Everbrook site, as well as some of the future maintenance that they've proposed to do on the site going forward in conjunction with that proposed development. So those are a few things that are a little beyond just the technicalities of a rezoning, but they are important because they are present issues that are ongoing. Drainage and flooding are issues that always come up with any kind of development in this area and recently many areas of the community. So we want to present that information, even though some of the future design and some of the future calculations are going to be more related to a site plan or a future PDD application that may come if the rezoning is successful. There are issues that we want to bring up at the point of the rezoning application, just to put those issues at the forefront in terms of what we would be looking at going forward in terms of any development, and then also being able to express any expectations that we have in terms of the future and what we want to see on the site and how we want it to function. The last thing I'll say about the natural features is that there has been a previous study, and I think the study might still be ongoing with the Army Corps of Engineers. The Army Corps of Engineers gave a presentation to the Board of Trustees roughly about a month ago. They have a report that is in draft form. They have studied these creeks. They have studied the area, and they've done some modeling in terms of what they've seen in the area. So once that report is finalized, we'll be able to incorporate that in more detail on any future development application of the site. But it is something that, as staff, we are watching, that we're monitoring, and we've been working with the Corps of Engineers along the way just to keep them informed of what's going on in the area, and they've been keeping the township informed of how their project is going. So we do have a draft report, and once that report is final, we'll be putting that out there and distributing it. But it is something that there's been a presentation to the township about, something that we are aware of in terms of some of the areas of concern. And they have some remedies that they may recommend. Some of them may be, for example, trying to hold additional water on the site west of Bar. It could include also having more berming along the west side of Bar, still keeping the ditch there, but having more berming in order to hold water back. So with a large site like this, and at the time where there's a future development, there are opportunities to try to implement any future recommendations by the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as any recommendations by Wayne County as we go forward with any future development application. So in terms of the actual rezoning itself, in terms of the proposal to rezone R2, R3, and R4 as proposed, we look at section 27.06D4 of the zoning ordinance. This section includes 10 criteria and standards of review that have to be met in order for rezoning to be approved. Our staff report includes findings on all 10 of the criteria, and some of which we've talked about in terms of some of the natural features, in terms of some of the site traits. And so I won't go through and rehash some of those. In terms of some of the findings as they relate to site infrastructure, there is available water and sanitary sewer service nearby, so that can be extended from some of which is on the east side of Bar Road from Grandview, some of which is located elsewhere, but there is access to sanitary sewer and public water. In terms of impact on traffic, if there's a future development proposal, there will have to be a traffic impact study. Both our condominium ordinance and our subdivision ordinance require that if there's a gravel road that will have more than 1,000 trips per day as a result of a development, then it's the responsibility of the developer to pave the road. So it is possible that there could be some paving of Bar Road. There could be some paving of Mott Road in the future, depending on whether there's what the scope of a future development proposal is and what the results of the traffic study are. So in terms of access to available infrastructure, it is possible for the site to be developed and meet the infrastructure requirements, but that's something that we won't know until they make the proposal, they do the traffic study, and then they determine the number of vehicle trips, they determine the water and sewer needs, and just as important, any kind of stormwater runoff and stormwater design, working with the hydrology that's there. With regard to the proposed density, according to the applicant's narrative, if the proposed rezoning application is approved, the 7 subject parcels would total roughly 211.25 acres and could allow for a gross maximum density up to 628 housing units. Under conventional zoning ordinance standards, where the applicable minimum lot size and setbacks are adhered to, the number of allowable units would decrease based on deducting undevelopable areas such as creeks, floodplains, and wetlands. Also, compliance with any natural feature setbacks, as well as available infrastructure for the on-site stormwater management and the on-site roads. If there is a future planned development district or a cluster development, it is possible for the applicants to get a density that is higher, not more than what's allowed by ordinance in terms of the gross density, but there is a possibility for density to get closer to that 628, or at least higher than what it is under conventional zoning. However, a planned development district is an optional type of development, and there have to be community benefits in conjunction with a planned development district application. So that would not be a condition of the rezoning application. It's just something we want to note as part of our review, just to indicate that although the gross numbers of 628 units, it's simply based on dividing the acreage by the minimum lot size in the underlying zoning district. And again, once we account for floodplains, creeks, wetlands, other site infrastructure, that number goes down. Possibly to raise the number a little higher after it goes down based on a planned development district, but that would have to be based on superior site design and definite benefits, which is not something we can consider at a rezoning, because the rezoning is just whether to rezone the property. We can't apply conditions to a rezoning, nor in this case would we want to, because there are still a lot of unknowns with some of the site features that would become more known at the time where there's an application proposed for a site development. One of the criteria is whether the proposed zoning ordinance or zoning map amendment is consistent with the master plan. In this case, the proposed rezoning is consistent with the master plan and the future land use map, almost to a T in terms of where those lines are in terms of future density. The future land use classifications have been the same for the site since at least 2004. And then there are other criteria that are in our staff report, but I won't repeat them just in the interest of time. One other item we want to note is, one of the criteria is if a rezoning is requested, could all requirements of the proposed zoning class be complied with on the subject parcels? And we include tables we include a table at the bottom of page 7 of our staff report that includes the minimum lot sizes and setbacks for the R2, 3, and 4 districts. And the site can comply with those. It's a very large site, so everywhere on the site, it would be able to comply with those, but that's only on a per lot basis. This doesn't give any kind of indication in terms of how many lots are attainable, which again is not something we'll know until the natural features and some preliminary engineering takes place on the site, where we'll really know how many lots are attainable on the site. So yes, the sites could meet the requirements of the zoning districts, but for a large site, almost any rezoning, they would be able to meet those standards. And then finally, the 10th criteria is if a rezoning is requested, what's the impact on township infrastructure? And again, there's available water and sewer, and those would have to be worked through township engineering and public works in terms of whether there's any additional infrastructure requirements, such as a pump station or any extensions of our water or sewer mains. For the roads, as we had noted, there may be some paving of gravel roads if the capacity goes over 1,000 trips a day as a result of a development. Additionally, there could be improvements that are off-site, and it could be traffic signal improvements. Those are things that would be reviewed by Wayne County. The adjacent roads of Gettys, Barr, and Mott are under the jurisdiction of Wayne County. So if there are any kind of off-site improvements like intersection improvements, lane widening, signal improvements at the nearby intersection, those are requirements that can be administered by Wayne County as a result of their review of the traffic study. And then finally, natural features and stormwater management. The site could comply with the infrastructure requirements. The site's large enough to do that. It's just a matter of how. And that's something we don't know until the site has some engineering with it. But it is attainable in terms of there's plenty of room for the creek buffers, for stormwater management, for preservation of natural features, and still having some kind of development on the site. It's unknown where those developable areas are and how the site could be laid out while meeting all those requirements. So there are still some unknowns that just by design are not known at the rezoning standpoint. If the rezoning is approved, the next step will be for the applicant to prepare an application for either a planned development district or for a site plan. And at either one of those, depending on which way the applicant would pursue, more of these would be known at that time. And then the other standards of the ordinance that we note here would be administered. So those creek setbacks, the stormwater management setbacks and requirements, natural features, preservation and setback requirements, minimum lot area, things of that nature would be implemented at that time and administered. And we would have a better picture of how a site could be laid out to comply with the ordinance, to meet the infrastructure requirements, and still preserve the natural features and address the stormwater issues that we've raised in our report and that have been raised on several other development-related items. So with that, our staff recommendation is approval of the rezoning request because it complies with the recommendations of the master plan and it meets the standards of section 27.06D4 of the zoning ordinance. We include a model motion with 7 findings that address the standards of section 27.06D4. And again, these are just regarding whether the district should change from RA to R2, 3, and 4. It's not an opinion on what a future development looks like. It's not an opinion on how many units there should be, not an opinion on which areas of the site should be used for stormwater management versus development. Those are things that are fleshed out during a more detailed engineering review where the civil engineering experts can look at that and can give an opinion on the appropriateness of the development of certain areas of the site. So with that, our recommendation is approval based on those criteria that are in our staff report, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Patrick. Is the project sponsor here? Would you like to add anything to what Patrick just said? Okay, please approach the podium and tell us your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Spencer Schaefer, and I'm with Schaefer Development. Our address is 31400 Northwestern Highway, Suite H, Farmington Hills, Michigan, 48334. Joined here by my father, Steve Schaefer, longtime developer. He's done a number of communities in Canton Township over the years, as well as my twin brother, Aaron Schaefer. I want to start by thanking Patrick Sloan. That was a fairly robust presentation. Obviously, what we're here to discuss this evening is a rezoning of the subject properties, but there were a lot of other topics that Patrick mentioned. Chief among them was stormwater management and flooding mitigation, and we talked a little bit about the history of some of the concerns that occurred out in this general area in April of last year. I know Pulte has really taken the bull by the horns and done a number of improvements as part of the Everbrook development and on adjacent properties. Our involvement on this site is very recent. We just closed last week on this parcel with the Schultz family. Robert Schultz owned this property. He owned a number of other properties in Canton Township. My father actually purchased Central Park from Bob Schultz, 30 years ago. Shoot, I think even before I was born. But we've had an extensive history with the Schultz family. Unfortunately, Bob Schultz, elderly farmer, he passed away about 9 months ago. His brother Raymond, who's actually 94, was the sole beneficiary of that trust. And Raymond approached us first to try to figure out a way to position his property for sale. So over the past number of months, we've worked in close conjunction with Raymond, with a lot of our consultants, chief among them Atwell. Atwell is a very reputable civil engineer. I know they've done civil engineering for a number of residential developments in this area, including Everbrook and in part on Getty's estate. So, we have a team of consultants who are very familiar with this area. We're going to talk about that here a little bit, but obviously, first and foremost, we're here to discuss the rezoning. So the subject property, as Patrick said, is located on the south side of Getty's Road. We do have some frontage on Bar Road, and then we do go as far south as Mott Road. To the west, it's the county line. We hit Superior Township. And you can see in the overall map, we are located in the far southwestern quadrant of Canton Township. Next slide, if you would, Patrick. So the zoning map and the future land use map, this was obviously talked about extensively by Patrick. Chief among the zoning classifications is RA. Patrick mentioned this, but a prior development group in 2004 actually rezoned these parcels to exactly what we are requesting this evening. And the rezoning requests that we're making are consistent with the future land use map and the township's recently adopted master plan. So the designation in yellow, I'm sorry, I have contacts, but my eyes aren't that good. I know the top district corresponds with R2, that's 2 units an acre. The middle, the slightly darker yellow or orange color is R3, 3 units an acre. And then the subject property that's more in that tannish pinkish color, R4, which is 4 units an acre. And again, as Patrick stated, that parcel that's directly adjacent to the manufactured housing community directly east of it, that already actually has the R4 zoning. So what we're proposing is completely in line with the township's master plan vision, how they want to see properties developed in the community in the future. Next slide, please. So here, I just wanted to showcase what that looked like again. As Patrick stated, it's a little bit of a unique designation split because it's not really among parcel lines, it's part of parcel lines. So what we ended up doing on that exhibit in red with our civil engineer after we completed our boundary survey, we actually created legal descriptions for each of the 3 future land use categories. So we could directly state how many acres were within each of those designations. And as Patrick stated, we performed a calculation that was just a general calculation, again, 2 units, 3 units, 4 units an acre, minus these acreages, and that's how we arrived at a total density. Now, we're going to get to it in here shortly, but there are some natural features on the site. We've actually completed a wetland delineation with Bar Engineering. There is I think there may be under half an acre of wetlands in total on the property. We use Bar substantially. We actually have a walk with Eagle, the state of Michigan, the reviewing agency who's in charge of that confirmation, set here for next month. So we're going to get those wetland boundaries. We've already identified them. We're going to formally get them confirmed by Eagle. In terms of the floodplain, we are performing what is called a HEC-RAS. There is a Zone A designation on the property by FEMA. FEMA just produces general maps. I frankly can't tell you what it's based off of, how they create those lines. It's not really in line with the topography of the site. But we've completed a topographic survey that looks and evaluates the contours of the land, where the water is kind of naturally running off to. And the point of the HEC-RAS model is to utilize the topographic data. There's been a fair amount of information that we have received to date from Army Corps. The formal Army Corps report, as Patrick mentioned, that has not been published yet, but we were able to get key data points from Army Corps that are going to be referenced in our HEC-RAS study. So we're very confident, as other developments have done, performing the HEC-RAS to formally delineate what those floodplain limits are. Now, I'm going to talk about the floodplain, although that's not the purpose of what we're here to discuss today. It's the rezoning. I think it's very important to talk about other development factors. There's a number of neighbors out here, and my father and I, we've attended all of the presentations for the Del Webb community. We're very familiar with a lot of the measures that Pulte has done to try to improve the situation. More than happy to talk about those, but I think those were fairly laid out well by Joe Score and Matt Bush at Atwell, showcasing some of the pictures, what happened with that regional stormwater basin to the north, also the blockage under Bar Road. But again, that's not the purview of what we're here to discuss tonight. I'm more than happy to talk to any neighbors after this meeting, share our contact information, kind of educate them on some of the measures that have already been employed. What I'm trying to get at, we're proactively looking at this. We don't have a concept plan designed yet. There's a number of environmental factors, and we want to make sure we're fully evaluating those and designing a development that not only is, great for the community, but also helps, prevent some of those flooding issues. Where we're at on this property, we're at the top of the watershed. The best place to mitigate against flooding, to potentially bring about additional storage as part of a development, is at the top of that watershed, before the water, goes downstream and creates flooding issues, for a number of other developments in Canton Township. So, we're really looking at this with a keen eye, working with Atwell, Jamie Burton at HRC. I know he does a lot of consulting work with multiple communities in Metro Detroit, working actually as a municipal consultant. And chief among his tasks is working on creek restoration. And the Fowler Creek on our portion of the property, it's a deep V. It's an agricultural drain. There isn't much vegetation around it. It's shrubs. But I'm going to talk about some natural channel design features that we would like to consider employing as part of this development. It's a fancy word. We're going to break down what that means, how it could be a benefit for our development, how it could be a benefit for all the adjacent neighbors and the township at large. But again, we're taking a keen eye to make sure that our development isn't only going to work for us and our bottom line, but it's going to be a benefit for the entire community. Next slide, please. So here, floodplain and natural channel design. As Patrick stated, there are two water courses that traverse our property. There's the Fowler Creek to the north, which is more in the northwest quadrant of our property. If you do look at some of the published data from FEMA, there is some floodplain that's northwest of the Fowler Creek and southeast of the Fowler Creek on our property. Again, the point of the HEC-RAS is to formally evaluate those limits, because it's just a model that was done. I can't even tell you how long ago, based on what data is unknown. It's based off of very generic information. So we're really gonna look at that and truly evaluate and delineate those limits. And then there is an unnamed drain to the south, which ends up traversing northeast through Getty's Estate and traverses along that same area. So natural channel design, I don't know who's familiar with it, but I thought these two exhibits really did a good job of explaining the concept. As I stated right now, I don't have any pictures, but the Fowler Creek on our property is like a deep V. It falls about 6-8 feet. There's a cavern in the middle of the property where all the water's diverted to. A natural channel design, it's an interesting concept that has been employed a lot recently. Jamie Burton, I know, has done a number of these, including opening up, I forget, was it the Rochester Creek? The Rochester Creek in the city of Rochester and the city of Rochester Hills. But what you do is initially you've got sort of like the base of the creek, the base of the channel, and then it rises up a little bit. You've got a couple of different plateaus. And it allows for a widened channel. It helps improve the capacity and the functionality of the floodplain by increasing storage volume and improving water flows into the Fowler Creek. It also, gives us the opportunity to potentially relocate floodplain storage in that area and sort of kind of create a whole amenity out of this area, a passive amenity, an active amenity. Because right now, as I stated, it's an agricultural drain, it's a deep V in the ground, and we want to try to find a way to activate that and help, meaningfully improve downstream flood conditions. And again, as I stated, being in the upper portion of the watershed, this property presents a strong opportunity to implement effective flood mitigation strategies. Beyond the engineering benefits, I talked about these improvements would create a high-quality on-site amenity. The improved creek corridor, I stated passive and active amenities. We'd like to do some walking paths, some native landscaping, and potentially some bench seating areas, which are going to contribute to the overall character of the area. Now, interestingly, David Norwood had sent an email. David Norwood, who's with Canton Township Engineering, had sent an email to us earlier this afternoon about SEMCOG programs. I know the township just recently got about, I think it's $600,000 grant fund from SEMCOG. I think it's earmarked for 4 projects, though. I saw a snapshot of the email from the supervisor, 3 park properties and then an ITC property, where they're looking at potentially doing expansion of stormwater facilities to help detain and retain some of these storm flows when we have these significant rain events. Now, I don't know if we necessarily can get access to that existing, pot of funding, but David did mention there's some other green infrastructure programs. So as soon as, we complete our HEC-GRAS and as soon as we have sort of defined concept plans, our next round of conversations are going to be Patrick with his team, Dave Norwood and the engineering team, and we'd really like to try to engage with SEMCOG at this very early first step to figure out a way that we can help, ameliorate a lot of these issues that, have occurred in the township. So with that, I really want to thank you for the opportunity. Obviously, talked about a bunch more topics outside of the rezoning. We've got our contact information on the next slide. My brother Aaron has a bunch of cards too that we would like to, potentially pass out to some of the neighbors after this meeting to stay in contact. But I'd now like to pass it back off to Patrick and the commissioners, and hopefully this was an informative presentation and we can answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. We need to open a public hearing.
Madam Chair, I move to open the public hearing.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Weber and support by Commissioner Foster to open a public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we have a public hearing open. I have a few requests that I would like to just review before I accept people up to the podium. First of all, I just want to clarify that we, as a planning commission, have specific. I need my glasses for this. We have specific procedures for reviewing and approving or not a rezoning request. And this is a legal process that comes down from the state of Michigan. So if we just, and I also should say that we, as a commission, make recommendations to the Township Board of Trustees. We're not the final decision maker. We make recommendations. But there are standards of review that we must consider, and Patrick went through some of these in his presentation, but I'm just going to outline what they are real quick. There are 10 of them. The first one is, will the proposed amendment be in accordance with the basic intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance? Second is the proposed amendment consistent with the comprehensive plan of the township? Third is, have conditions changed since the zoning ordinance was adopted, or was there a mistake in the zoning ordinance that justify the amendment? Will the amendment correct an inequitable situation created by the zoning ordinance rather than merely grant special privileges? That was number 4. Number 5 is, will the amendment result in unlawful exclusionary zoning? Number 6 is, will the amendment set an inappropriate precedent resulting in the need to correct future planning mistakes? 7, is the proposed zoning consistent with the existing land uses of surrounding property? 8 is, could all requirements in the proposed zoning classification be complied with on the subject parcel? 9, is the proposed zoning consistent with the trends in land development in the general vicinity of the property in question? And finally, 10, what is the impact on the township infrastructure? And as I said, Patrick went through some of those in his presentation. But I would like to just say, I know people have a lot to say about this, and we want to hear it. But there is a legal process that we go through for granting these, and if we decide to deny it, we need to cite in our motion any or all of those 10 standards that I just read, those 10 standards of review that are not met in the application in order for our decision to be legally defensible. So I just want everybody to understand where we have to, what we have to make decisions based on before we start the public hearing. And if you would like to say something, I would ask you to please begin by stating your name and address for the record. Give us your comments, opinions, or questions on this issue, and be as brief as possible. We have a lot of people here, and I understand there's some kind of big sporting event tonight, so some of us want to go home and see that. I'm sure you do too. Please stay on topic. If you stray off topic, I will rein you back in. And also, if someone else has already made your point, please understand we are listening. We do hear what people say. We do appreciate that you've come out for the evening and you're here with us to make these points. Finally, we do limit your time to 3 minutes. We will stop you if you extend past that. So please, if someone has already made your point, I already made my point, we are listening. So with that, I did see a couple of hands in the air. If you would like to raise your hand, sir with the green hat, you had your hand up first in the middle there. Yes, you, please. Yeah. And if the others who want to speak would like to make your way to the podium, you have to go to the podium, sir.
You have to come up here, sir.
No.
No, you have
not
to
be on the
you have to speak
recording.
into the mic, sir.
And also, it's important for the microphone because our cable division does record the meetings and they are on our YouTube page. So after the meeting, anyone in the public that wants to watch the meeting, the audio only is heard through the microphones themselves.
Exactly.
James Sharp. I live on Bar Road, have for all my life. Came back from Nam in 71, took the farm over from my folks. And a couple weeks ago, I had a little problem. Survey company unlocked my gate, drove in, drove through my wife's flower bed into my horse pasture. And a van and a pickup tore up the horse pasture a little bit. They showed me a sheet from Canton Planning that said they are allowed to go on anybody's property, posted or not, anywhere. They are the surveyors. I called Nestle's office in Lansing. The paper's not worth the paper it's written on. In order to come on my property and tear up my property again, I think I found out who hired the guys right now. You have to have a warrant signed by a judge. This isn't Russia. And Nestle's office also reminded me, I had to remove these guys by force. He also reminded me, Michigan has a stand your ground law. So my property is posted. I have cameras up all over to verify what I'm saying. No more Canton people on my farm.
Thank you. This is outside the scope of our hearing
And
this
I'm
evening.
glad You admitted that you hired the surveyors.
All right.
I can just talk about that. I didn't hire a surveyor. I just work in the planning division, and I'm not aware of any document that, that was referenced there. So I'll defer to our engineering division on that. But I do want to note that I did receive a call from a resident on Mott Road that had someone go onto their property and open up a gate. And I notified the applicant of that and made sure that the owner could make contact with the applicants about that. So if we hear anything about, someone going onto somebody else's property, if we get inquiries, we will put the resident in contact with the applicant just to try to clear that out.
Thank you. Okay, sir.
Hello again.
Hello, how are you?
Keith Weesty, 3952 Brookside. This is probably about my 6th or 7th or 10th time talking. I understand this is just to rezone, but I hope when it comes down to them actually putting out plans and stuff that you guys scrutinize them deeply. Putting pipes in the ground. 3 weeks ago, we had 1.5 inches of water. Water was already coming over Bar Road. So for people to say that it's fixed is kind of a dream. So like I said, I hope you guys scrutinize their plans as deeply as you can. Getty's Road with the Pulte development that's coming of 500 some odd homes. Now they're going to add another 625 homes, possibly multi-level. That means more people. Getty's Road is a farm road that is now used as a highway, which will soon be used as a thoroughway for multiple residentials. So I hope you guys scrutinize all the piping, all the groundwater, all the traffic, because it's going to get worse. It's already the main way to go from Canton to Ypsilanti to Ann Arbor to the hospital, and the traffic's just going to get worse. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dennis Kreinbrink, 4779 Bingham in Pulte, Grandview Estates. Patrick, can you advise me what the zoning is currently for Grandview Estates South?
So just to clarify, Grandview is located on the east side of the road. So the northern part, R2, southern part and central part is R3.
So my concern, well, first of all, second, a number of the points that were brought up just moments ago about the road and the traffic and pressure on that road, obviously water runoff, now that you'll have more hardscape in the proposed area. Oh, sorry. Let me put my military voice on, sorry, it's been a while. My concern here is certainly water runoff and retention mentioned, but also the amount of personnel, amount of traffic that will be imposed, and light that will be now emanating from the new area that will be developed. I didn't really intend to buy into a high population area. I thought I'd build out in the country, and when I bought with Pulte, I thought I was doing that somewhat, knowing, of course, that development is possible. But I would propose that the density approval, the rating, R3, be granted at the highest, that would be the highest level possible. I would rather it all be R2, but okay, to that point. I'm not interested in R4 at all. I mean, I'm almost adamantly opposed to that because we're not looking for, another commerce area, another zip code to be created from, high population area. And that's what we'll have here, I'm afraid, if we go into that. And that's approximately 1/3 of the total area proposed. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name's Ray Savage. You see that little L shape on the screen there? That's our property. And they're putting R4 all around us. Okay, we're on 5 acres. And Who's going to put those backyards all the way around us? Now, years ago, Biltmore was going to develop all that land. And what they did, they were going to put a green space all the way around our property so we wouldn't have everybody's backyards backing up to our house, up to our property. And when the surveyors did come, wasn't the surveyors, whoever marked our pine trees left our gate open, which we have dogs. And our dogs got out because the gate was left open. But I don't know why you're gonna put R4 all around us. Why can't they do R2? 2 houses per acre instead of 4. Wouldn't that be a common thing to do for your neighbors around there, not to crowd them out? If it was anybody else's house, you guys, would you want that many houses backed up to your lawn and then have to worry about people throwing their stuff over your fence into your yard? They would put a decent green space around us. I wouldn't have a problem with that. But if I got all these people backing up to our property, we've been here 31 years. And I moved out of Dearborn Heights to get away from subdivisions. But I knew it was coming, but I could live with R2 if they would do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. My name's John Gilliam, 4868 Bar Road. I owned a creek that Schultz put in the wrong spot, okay? You're off property, it's through my property. You're gonna buy it, you bought it. It's an irrigation ditch, it's not on a map. Nowhere. It's not FERC, it's not Wayne County, it's not Canton. You already know that? It comes from back there where they water. All those tiles are tied into Bar Road, they're tied into that creek, and they're tied into Mott and everywhere else. They've been flooding it for years because they couldn't farm it. Now, where are you gonna put your water? In that creek? You were on my property surveying it. Don't even think about it. You're 2 foot lower in that bean field. And those woods, they're all tagged. There's a lot of, you been in there? They got, just like Wayne County in my ditch, I got a sycamore. It's bigger than this thing here. It's got a tag from 1920. Those trees all got tags. That means you can't knock them down and cut them down. But you better build some big ponds, because you ain't up high enough like you're talking about. You're where it all starts, because that ground back there is super wet. And when you pull them drain tiles out of the ground, you're gonna find out you ain't got enough money to move the dirt.
Anyone else? I'm sorry, there's somebody up here raised his hand. So could you, sir, please go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you had your hand up.
I guess there's a few of us that came back.
Please.
My name is Joseph Kubinski. I'm at 50384 Weston in Grandview Estates. I'm 1 house away from Bar Road. And I had 4 feet of water in my yard in 23, and it wasn't fun. Had a lot of that water came into my basement. Okay, I have a few points I'd like everybody to consider. Basically, any rezoning efforts or any approvals or development like that, I would hope would follow the Corps of Engineers recommendations or assure that whoever develops that property follows those recommendations. I worked for the Corps. I did this kind of stuff. Secondly, the Corps recommendations may change. That is because these recommendations were a preliminary study, minimally funded, minimally surveyed areas. They were not a full-blown flood control study. So that's probably going to be in the preface to the report. I haven't seen the draft report. However, knowing that the report was developed based on existing conditions. Existing conditions are, guess what, RA. Different, wholly different way of looking at drainage and at water movement and so forth. So once again, I'd like the Corps to be able to continue their efforts. However, looking at that whole chunk of site as residential, which means houses, driveways, streets, sidewalks. Guess what? That's a lot of rapid runoff during a high-intensity storm. We've had high-intensity storms in 23, 6 inches of rain at Willow Run Airport in less than 4 hours. And lastly, you mentioned 10 standards that the board is going to consider. Are they on the Canton site, those standards?
Yes.
I'd like to see them because I'd like the opportunity to at least send something to the township with respect to, the interpretation of those standards. And thank you very much for your time. And I liked the comments that were made about the backyards and the green space areas. Green space does a lot of good. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am?
Hi, I'm Rita Gilliam, John's wife. And just a few things. We're planning on selling in Canton, where we're living now at our other home, just to get out of the, it's so crazy busy, Ford Road and everything. So we decided to buy Bar so it'd be more country in Canton. And without knowing all this was going on. So then we started looking, and we backed right to Schultz. And Schultz had no business putting a creek in on our land. And he did, and there's no writing anywhere how he was able to make some agricultural ditch and have it just absolutely flood, then floods our stuff. I don't know, but I'm hoping you don't dump your water there, because we're all told, because we live right on Bar Road from Pulte, and they complain, those neighbors, about all their flooding and how they're supposed to be being helped, but we live there, so we see the flooding. So I hope once you guys start researching this, that at least we can be involved or at least be notified of what's happening, because we know darn well now we're never gonna sell. But now how am I gonna sit there with all this flooding, with everything, all the water coming into our house? So I'm so worried about the farmland. And then another thing is, like with the roads, it's getting so populated where we're at. Getty's is like a speed strip. My kid almost got killed twice because to get onto Getty's, unless you take the whole route all the way to Pulte's sub and go through their subdivision, he's got a left-hand turn blinker on, and people are just slamming on their brakes because they're going 75 from Ford Road to get to the highway. Can they make like a left or a turnaround, where you're making a left-hand turn and they go around so that the cars can go around and not the people that are trying to make a left? Because even the Pulte people, or whoever they are, they go onto Bar Road because they can get into Weston Street faster than they can go all the way around the subdivision in Pulte. So Bar is starting to be used a lot. And he comes home all the time and says, Mom, I almost got killed again. I'm like, then take the time and go through Pulte, because don't risk your life. And I think Canton, with how big we've gotten and how populated we've gotten, they would owe that to us now, or to everybody in the subdivision, because there's gonna be deaths there with all this population growing there. They've gotta do something with the road. And then when you start building, I don't know where you're gonna go with the heavy equipment, but Pulte was told 1,000,000 times not to use Bar Road. And they did, of course. And of course, we put aluminum siding all over the house, brand new, but then the dirt and the sand that they added just killed it. So we're forever trying to wash the siding off, And then they decided to put up construction sites and said only entrance here, which is right in front of our house. So I don't know how you're gonna manage that with being on Bar Road, but let them come down Getty's or something, because it's a dirt road. And my husband has to come down here all the time and say, we have ditches because of the big trucks.
Thank you, ma'am, your time is up.
Thank you.
Ma'am, please.
Pastor Helen Canty, and we just moved back into Canton. We lived in Canton from 2005 to 2009, and we moved out of Van Buren because we needed to be on a one level. So we're in Grandview South, and my concern is, and I actually came to the meeting because I wanted to know what was going to be built. I didn't want gas stations and all of that, and then I find out about the flooding. I know what it's like to have water in your basement. Horrible. We've had it twice. And so my concern is, after all of this is done, after it's all built, you do everything you say you're gonna do, and I get water in my basement, who's responsible for making sure that the things that were said tonight are actually done, so I don't have to sue somebody? Who's gonna be responsible? Is it Wayne County? Is it Canton? After all of this is done, everything you say, houses are up, who's responsible? That's my question.
Thank you. Anyone else want to say anything that hasn't already been said?
Move to close the public hearing, Madam Chair.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Watkins and support by Commissioner Weber to close the public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I'm going to start with Commissioner Watkins.
All right. Thank you so much. If I can get the petitioners back in the mic. I am, I'll tell you, I can look at the Schaefer developments, and this isn't your first time doing this. At least I don't believe it is. You've done this a whole lot. What I would have liked to have seen, right, was some concept. And again, this isn't your first time doing this. It would have been great to understand, given the density, at least for us to know what this looks like. So I'm going to ask you really quick to tell me here in the public forum, what have you looked at in terms of unit count on a site like this?
So we have performed a very preliminary concept plan that aligns with the new zoning designations. What we really want to do is wait until we have that HECRAS data, because we understand what the zoning is based off of FEMA. We started to put together topography. We see some inconsistency there. We really want to be able to, again, define and delineate what that floodplain area is, because that's going to dictate what the rest of our layout looks like.
That's a great answer.
With
Now-
that,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
With
Finish,
that
please.
being said, Patrick said there are two options in front of us. We can do something that delineates the plan to conventional zoning, 2 units on the top, 3 units in the middle, 4 units on the bottom. I don't think that's in the interest of anybody here at this table. We want to do a nice, thoughtful, planned community, mixed generational. We want to have multiple different types of neighborhoods, and we want to make this be a destination community for all of Canton Township. So with all that being said, HECRAS is in process. We're supposed to have the results of our HECRAS end of this month. Wetlands are going to be verified in the beginning of May, and shortly after that timeframe, we're going to be able to produce a number of robust concept plans. And we look forward to meeting early on with neighbors. Any neighbors that want to share our contact information with us, we want to have open doors, open ears, and obviously we want to work closely with Patrick Sloan and the engineering department as we go all throughout the process. This is, we want to be able to crawl slow, now so we can run fast later. So we want to take a comprehensive approach to this.
All right, thank you so much. And then my next question is going to be, when we start to look at, and I'll make a statement first before I get to my question, the area, right? We've got, listen, I see the other developer consultant here. He's in the room tonight. Look, the area it's tight. And what I don't want you looking for is a really small camel and a really big needle. Getty's Road, we're going to have to start to talk with Wayne County to understand that something's not going to fit. At some point, and I said this several meetings ago, at some juncture, somebody's development is gonna come up, and it's gonna be planned, and it's gonna be a certain number of units, and it's not gonna work for what's there right now, notwithstanding what's already in place, what's already been approved by this body. So I guess what I'm saying to you is, there's gonna be a lot of work involved, there's gonna be a lot of planning involved, and I want you to think very circumspectly about what you bring back to us in terms of a PD, or in terms of, or site planning. Because the people in this room have heard this numerous times. The development consultants in the back have heard this, you guys have done this numerous times. And what I would love to see in this particular case, given the area, is somebody that comes back with a solid plan that's heard the concerns of the community and taken them into consideration and come back with something that's viable. Last question, when do you, if you get approval tonight, when do you plan to come back with concept plan for the PD?
I'd have to say from today, we're probably talking plus or minus 90 days.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Singh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have the same concern, what Commissioner Watkins just said. We have heard a lot of developments in the recent time who have gotten approval. And with the current concerns there with flooding and with all these people who live in that area, their concerns, we will be looking at this site plan with a very detailed eye. I would like to see everything, every T crossed and every I dotted. And I also heard one gentleman saying that the mitigation of all these drainage systems and tiles and all that, it's going to be a lot of money which you guys have to spend. So I want you guys to be ready and do your homework. We want to see that it's done right and the community is taken care of. Another thing which I have seen that R4 at the bottom, I understand it's as per the master plan, but there are zonings which are R3 and R2 next to it. So I don't know if I'm comfortable making that area R4, but we'll see how the site plan goes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Lee.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First thing I thought about was water when I first saw this anyway. It's natural. We've seen too many times. I didn't know water was a problem in Canton until I got on this board. But one of the things I like to, let me just give you a compliment. I like the way you handle it. You did that very well. I like the fact that you're proactive, and even the design that you described was something that is very important, because if we can get control of the water where it starts and solve some things there, it's going to solve problems further on. So I like the approach. I think it can work. So I like that from that standpoint. The other thing I'd like you to add to your map, I don't know if you'll do it, but I'd like to see what a 500-year map looks like, because we've gotten the 500-year rain, right? As recently as when we had all the major flooding. I think it'd be good to see what that is. I don't even know if they make it, but I didn't even know there was a 500-year rain until it happened. The other thing that I'm thinking about is that, I knocked this off, is one of the problems we have as a board is we have no control over the roads. So why not work with us as developers and go and work on Wayne County to do the things and do the implementation before all this stuff hits the ground? Because I think the approach that they're taking is we don't see a problem until there's a problem. We're creating a problem because our roads just aren't big enough. So all these things that we're trying to do, if we worked as a group, developer, all the developers that are impacted, everything, and say, look, Wayne County, this is what's coming. How can we make this work? And then, we can fold into that. They're not listening to just us, is what I'm saying. The private sector can help that. At least I think so. I think that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Weber.
The people on this board are gonna be really probably roll their eyes when they hear what I had to say. Let me just say this, first of all, on its face, I don't have a problem with this rezoning. But I do have a problem approving this tonight. I think you still have a lot of homework to do. I'm concerned when I hear about this drainage ditch, farm, creek, whatever the heck you want to call it, was put in on somebody else's property without any kind of approvals. I'd like to know more about that, Patrick. Please, sir, you've had your time to talk. The other issue I have is, and kind of piggybacking on what Commissioner Watkins said, I need to see a concept here. I mean, I heard what you said tonight, but I need to see, when the Everbrook people came in, they had a concept to show us what that property looked like. And I think Pulte should be complimented on the efforts they've made on that property. And I think similar efforts are gonna be, I know for a fact that if we end up approving this either tonight or down the road, we're gonna expect the same from you folks. So I need to know how these wetlands are gonna be impacted, how Fowler Creek's gonna be impacted. I need to see a concept of what the density is gonna look like on this. I'm not saying that's gonna be the final say on everything, but I need to see something before I can be comfortable approving this. And finally, as far as Getty's Road goes, I have, in my career, I've had an opportunity to go to many other growing cities around the country. And one of the things I've been impressed about that a lot of these newer cities do, and the most recent one that I go to is Columbus, Ohio, which I have to go every week. One of the things I've been impressed with is when they put infrastructure in ahead of the development coming. They put the roads in, they put the sewers in. And I'm not just saying that this is true of Wayne County, I've seen it across Michigan. We are far more reactive than we are proactive, and I'm getting really tired of it. And I think the people here are absolutely right. If we approve Everbrook, and when we approve this with the density you're proposing, again, I'm not opposed to you today. But I do think we're putting a serious burden on Getty's Road that this has to be addressed. I am so tired of saying that this is not our jurisdiction. Something needs to happen, whether it comes from Canton and the other jurisdictions that border Getty's Road, whether it's with the private sector, but something has to happen and pressure has to be put on Wayne County and or MDOT to make these roads safer for these people. If they want to see development continue here and they want people to stay here, then we need to improve the infrastructure. We can't just be reacting all the time and wait for accidents to pile up. And what we're doing at Ford, what we have to do at Ford Road now, when it should have been addressed years ago, is ridiculous. Maybe this isn't the forum for me to be saying this, but I'm just really tired of hearing we can't do anything about it because it's not our road. Well, it's time that we do step up and do something. If that needs to come from the administration or the board or whoever it needs to be, or a collaborative effort, then it needs to happen now. That's all I have to say, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Foster?
I don't want to repeat a lot of what has already been said. I don't have an issue with the rezoning, but I will say that you can gain a lot by working closely with the neighbors and being respectful of them and their property. And so I would just urge you to do that. I would also say that I had the benefit of seeing the Army Corps of Engineers study, and we got a lot of good information out of it. And I hope that you will work with Patrick to make sure that any plans that you bring to us incorporate a lot of those recommendations. And even if you have to reduce density to do so, I hope you will take a look at that. The other thing I will say is I care deeply about the flooding. I know it has been a huge issue in Canton, but I also care a lot about the traffic. And as someone mentioned earlier, the traffic on Getty's Road is unsustainable. I know I read in the packet that, if the traffic studies show that so many people are gonna use the road, there's gonna have to be paving on Mott and Bar Road. That is just going to increase traffic and driving on those roads to kind of alleviate what's happening right now on Getty's. So when you bring plans, I really wanna look at traffic because that's something that will weigh my decision moving forward.
Okay, Commissioner Cruz?
I'm in agreement with, I'm not going to repeat what a lot of these commissioners said, but Atwell's here, right? You're from Atwell? Pulte. Okay. Well, here's the issue I have. I've never seen this before. Every rezone that I've done as an engineer has a concept. Pulte always comes with some type of concept. I would be surprised if you had a rezone success without any plan or concept.
Yeah.
And everyone is saying, yeah, when we do this, we want to see this, we want to see that. Yeah, we want to see all that, but we have to have some skeleton of a concept before we consider a rezone. I know it may not be required, but it should be required, and we'd like to see it. I'd like to see it. So from an engineer's standpoint, I've always had a concept for a rezone that I've done. From a planning commission standpoint, same thing. I've never seen a rezone without some sort of concept. So I think it's very important, especially with the traffic and historical flooding that we've talked about here. And I'm not gonna go through all that. And I get that you're doing the HEC-RAS study, the Army Corps study is pending. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. I just would not rush into this rezone without taking some of these due diligence steps and showing us a little more information. So I'm not really comfortable with approving it now, but I'm not against the rezone, provided that more substantial information is presented.
With respect, a concept plan is not a requirement. We had talked about that at length
I
with
said
Patrick
that.
Sloan.
I know it's not a
Yeah.
requirement. I know it's not a requirement.
Commissioner Walther?
I think everybody pretty well spoke. But I encourage you to continue to reach out to the surrounding properties, especially that L-shaped 5-acre parcel with his concerns as well. And I look forward to seeing the water flow being addressed and all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I agree with what my fellow commissioners have said. I don't have a problem with rezoning this, but I think we will have a lot to look at in the future, and we will be looking with an eagle eye at what you guys come up with. So having said that, do any of my fellow commissioners want to make a motion?
I can make it.
Okay.
Hold on, let me make sure I have the right one up. I move to recommend approval of the request and planning application PZ 26-00048 to rezone 6 parcels numbers 122-99-0006, 701, 122-99-0007, 000, 122-99-0005, 701, 123-99-0005, 703, 122-99-0002, 000, and 122-99-0003, 000, from RA Rural Agricultural to R2, R3, and R4, single-family residential, in accordance with the application materials submitted with the application, as the proposal meets the standards for section 27.06D4 of the zoning ordinance as stated in the staff report, based on the following findings. The proposal R2, R3, R4 zoning districts are in accordance with the basic intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance and are consistent with the master plan, including the future land use map and zoning plan. Conditions have changed since the zoning ordinance was adopted, and the proposed rezoning to R2, R3, and R4 will not grant special privileges. The rezoning amendment will not result in unlawful exclusionary zoning and will not set an inappropriate precedent. The proposed R2, R3, and R4 zoning is consistent with the existing land use of surrounding property and is consistent with the trends in land development in the general vicinity of the properties. Compliance with the standards of R2, R3, and R4 zoning districts are attainable. The proposed R2, R3, and R4 zoning by itself does not result in negative impacts on the township infrastructure, with a final determination to be made during development application review, and the subject parcels were previously rezoned from RA to R2, R3, and R4 in 2004, which was consistent with the current rezoning application.
Thank you.
I second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Foster and support by Commissioner Lee. Any further discussion?
Discussion, Madam Chair. To Corporation Counsel, my question would be, and it goes to the legality of making a request of concept plan prior to moving forward on our vote is not required within the framework of the ordinance. And I guess it would be voluntarily given to the body if they wanted to provide it, but I want to ensure that we have an opportunity to ask for that if we could.
I mean, if it's not in your ordinance as part of the requirements, and you don't demand it of every single person who's requesting a rezoning of a similar nature, then you've got to have substantive grounds for why you are calling one group out or one applicant out over another, right? So there's got to be a consistent rationale behind it. I'm not saying you can't, I'm just saying there's got to be a rationale behind it. There's nothing wrong with asking for it, but again, just be mindful of what you're actually asking for.
Thank you.
Can I piggyback on that a minute? So we've never requested it because we've never had to. Every rezoning that's come before us, there's been at least a concept plan in front of us. Whether you're asking for that, Patrick, or not, I don't know. But these developers seem to know the drill. Pulte's great at coming in with a concept for what, and I don't think it's too much to ask, given the issues that we're dealing with. You say we have to have a substantive reason to ask for one. Given the issues we're dealing with here and the complaints that we're hearing about and the density of this potential development, I don't think it's out of line to ask for or request a conceptual plan. If we were challenged legally on it, I'd be hard pressed to say we'd get beaten down by that, to be honest.
Well, I'm not prepared to give you a full legal answer right on the fly here, but what I am saying is if that is one of the reasons that's holding you up in terms of your decision-making, it sounds like there's probably a greater issue than not having the actual
Right.
conceptual
I
plan.
mean,
That's probably more so the grounds for your vote and decision, more so than it is actually having
there's many issues, but the conceptual plan would help us vet those other issues.
Yeah, so say you were to vote down this motion today, and then they were to reapply or resubmit, and then they came back with conceptual plans, right? Or they came back with a different presentation that gave you more of a conceptual idea of what they were hoping to do. I mean, then you could use it as your basis, right? But not having conceptual plans today, that one piece shouldn't be the grounds to turn down the motion. It should be just.
Understood.
Yeah.
And looking at the ordinance itself, looking at the application information, there's the form that's got to have the name and address. There's showing the surrounding area, showing the dimensions of the lot lines, showing drainage courses, floodplains, things like that are there. One of the items it mentions is proposed lot lines and lot dimensions and general layout of proposed structures, drive areas, driveways, and other improvements on the site. And in some cases, we do get a layout plan like that. In some cases, we haven't. And in those cases, we haven't. There are some cases, though more often than not, we have some kind of concept plan. The times we don't get that is when it's largely unknown. And for this application, when we looked at this standard for proposed lot lines and lot dimensions, if it's unknown, it's hard to do it. And the reason we didn't push that hard on that was because there's floodplains, there's an ongoing review from the Army Corps of Engineers where it's a little outside the applicant's hands in terms of that data there. So we proceeded with the application without the conceptual layout, even though there is language that does reference it in our ordinance.
But then we're being asked to make a difficult decision, Patrick, on what I feel is incomplete information. I mean, we can rezone this property, and I want to make it clear to you, I'm not opposed to what you're asking here. I just don't feel like I have all the information to make an intelligent decision. So I think it's unfair, Patrick, to say that because the Army Corps of Engineers is going to review this and Wayne County is going to review that and all that. And you've heard me say this before. I think we have a right to ask for as much information as we need to make these difficult decisions. And we know what the issues are down here. We know it's a problem. And now we're being asked to potentially do something that could exacerbate the problem. We don't know. I want to help mitigate that. But I can't make that decision tonight based on what I have in front of me right now.
Patrick, if I may, we have a concept plan that we've produced. Again, until we know what that floodplain limit is, it could change drastically. The type of product that we're proposing, where we're locating our stormwater management.
what's your
There's a
hurry?
number of issues that we're gonna address formally through the site plan and engineering process. If we're doing a PD, there's multiple bites at the apple. This isn't the only time we come in front of this
No,
commission.
it's not. But what is your hurry? I mean, it sounds like you just closed on the property last week.
And we have concept plans, but. it
Okay,
could
so
change
why
sub-
weren't they part of your application?
Because it could change substantially, and as
It's a concept. It's not a final plan.
Yeah, but there's so many open items here still from the standpoint of where the floodplain.
So you're not helping your argument here, because you're saying yourself, there's a lot of open items. Okay, so you're asking us to make a decision on a lot of open items.
The site plan that was done took a lot of
Make sure you're talking into
things.
the mic.
Took a lot of things into account that we don't have the full answers for. So if I showed you that, I don't think it would really be relevant. I would rather show you a plan that has verified, HEC-RAS lines. I'd like to follow up with SEMCOG. They did reach out to us.
Just
There
this
is
morning.
there is a big push to address this flooding throughout the SEMCOG area. And we actually, tomorrow, we're going to reach out to the engineer to talk about this open drain concept, because that could capture so much water, and we don't know where those boundaries are going to be. And yes, it probably will reduce density and, all the things that is going to come along with it. But to produce it just wouldn't be accurate. We don't have the wetlands flagged yet. It was zoned. We're just trying to do some cleanup before we start our site plan process and just get the zoning that is recommended for the property. But I can assure you that, we're gonna have a lot of opportunities to talk to you and go through this and have relevant data, that's gonna make sense. We're not gonna,
Well, I'm sure you will, and I know the process. You're right. You're gonna be here many times.
yeah.
But you're asking me to make a decision on something you say yourself you don't have all the information on. So I'm not prepared to make a decision on this tonight.
Madam Chairwoman, if I may, if commissioners don't feel they have enough information to make the decision, they are free to vote no.
That's correct.
And it would give the applicant direction on which way to go next, right?
Certainly.
So there is a motion on the floor that has been properly seconded.
I was just making comment as we were given the opportunity to make comments.
Okay. Commissioner Lee, could you please call the vote?
Yes. Commissioner Cruz?
No.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Lee, yes. Commissioner Singh?
No.
Commissioner Walther?
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins?
No.
Commissioner Weber?
No.
Chairperson Zuber?
Yes.
So I don't know what that is. Wait a minute, yes?
Okay, so I think it was 4-4. So
4-4?
I believe so. So the vote was 4-4. So that motion does not go forward. A motion needs 5 affirmative votes to move forward. It doesn't mean that the application's denied. It just means that particular motion does not move forward. So there can be another motion. There can be another motion recommended to approve. There can be a motion to defer action pending receipt of any additional information, or there could be a motion to deny. It sounds like based on the no votes, it was, from what I had heard, based on wanting additional information. So if there's a motion to
Patrick,
postpone action, defer action, and then provide the applicant guidance on any additional information the Planning Commission may want to see.
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to give an additional amended motion, or should I say a new motion, forgive me, and that would be to defer action on the rezoning pending additional information, including concept plan from the developer.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't think it's that simple, because what the developer's saying is that they cannot produce a buildable concept plan without the flooding information. Is that correct?
We have baseline flooding information. We can produce a concept plan off of the baseline information that we have. Is that baseline information correct? You could, on every single parcel, it's based off of informal FEMA data. And as is in the case of a floodplain A, which is the designation that we have, we're going through the HECRAS right now. The types of units may change. I'm not gonna lie. If I produce a plan today or if I produce a plan 4 weeks from now, the types of units may change. Whether I do more duplexes or more single family, the type of units are really the purview of a plan development. It's not the purview of a rezoning. I don't really know if it's a requirement. We didn't feel a concept plan was a requirement. That being said, there's 4 commissioners who have asked for a concept plan. I don't have an issue with this being tabled until we produce a concept plan. With that being said, with reservations, I don't understand how it's gonna change the calculus. I really don't think so. I think that's the purpose of site plan and detailed engineering, is to deal with all these issues. We're not gonna deal with them in
Who's doing your
concept plan.
engineering?
Atwell,
Okay.
who's a very reputable engineer. They've done a lot in Canton Township.
So have they looked at the model?
Yes. We haven't been released, we've been released parts of, they haven't released the full model to anybody. I don't know if they'll ever release the full model to anybody, but they have given us baseline floodplain elevations, baseline data from the creek that we're using to model for our own HECRAS. So it's based off of data that Atwell's putting together and that Army Corps of Engineers has put together.
Don't misunderstand. This is not about a concept plan per se. We want to see the concept plan because we want to see how it impacts what the real issues are at this property, the drainage, the road frontage. So the concept plan is just a piece of the puzzle that we feel we need to be able to look at how those other issues are impacted by this rezoning.
And that's fine. If we have to table it to produce a concept plan, we're more than happy to do that.
And on the concept plan, in the past, when we've looked at concept plans with a rezoning, what we do is we have a separate section of our letter that looks at the concept plan with the qualifier that this isn't really a comment on whether a rezoning should be approved. It's just regular staff comments on a concept plan. So if, for example, if a concept plan shows units that are in a floodplain, we would comment to say there's units in a floodplain at the point of PDD or site plan, we would want those units removed. That's not a feasible part of it. But just because a concept plan may show units in a floodplain or filling of a wetland that might not otherwise be approved at site plan, we wouldn't use the concept plan, I'll call them flaws, as grounds for denying a rezoning.
Right.
But we would include the comments in our letter just to kind of foreshadow those comments that will be made at the time of site plan review, just to give background. So they're kind of non-binding comments because it's not a conditional rezoning, but we will make them based on the concept plan that's available. So even if the concept plan showed things like that or included some things that would have to be addressed in more detail or moved, we would make those comments. And then they wouldn't be conditions, but we would call them out as expectations.
Madam Chair, through you to the developer, I think that was the underlying premise of the motion was, at least my hearing might be failing me, but I thought I heard him say there was some sort of preliminary concept that you already had. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought I heard you say that. And I think that would be something that would give us something to be able to look at in conjunction with the rezoning. Not as a causation of approval or disapproval, but just to understand.
Okay.
So that motion would, just to reiterate the motion, it was to defer action on the item pending additional information from the developer.
Did we have a second for that?
Second.
All right.
Point of clarification, the additional information is just a concept plan. I just want to make sure what we're producing is at the satisfaction of Planning Commission.
But
Well, in terms of what the ordinance states, it states proposed lot lines and lot dimensions and general layout of proposed structures, parking areas, driveways, and other improvements on the site. So it's kind of general, and in terms of, it starts with proposed lot lines and lot dimensions. Sometimes it's difficult, especially with so many unknowns, especially with this site, with what we know about the floodplains and the Corps of Engineers modeling. My suggestion would be to try to start with some unit layouts and road layouts, just something basic, not necessarily engineered.
Patrick, is it a density plan, or is it, because a concept plan, if
no,
we're
it's
looking to do a PD, there may be products that we're looking to try to propose that aren't permitted by right in R2, R3, R4. That was, again, another one of my hesitations. But if understanding it's a concept plan, it's general guidance, if the township's open to that, we can talk about it more offline if needed. I just want to make sure we're producing what is being asked for as additional information, so we don't run into a similar issue when
But
we submit a
you-
concept.
well, wait a minute. Are you saying, but you've said yourself that in order to produce that concept plan, you're waiting on the het grass study, you're waiting on the report, the floodplain report and all that. So I would think at a minimum, you would want to see that information before you could put together an intelligent concept plan.
Yeah, and even if they were awaiting the study, for example, what Mr. Schaefer had mentioned, on the public notice sign, the future use was residential, attached and detached. So say, for example, the concept plan had attached units at, 4 attached units per structure. 4 units per structure, it's not a permitted use in the R3 through R4 district, but it is something that could be approved through a modification and a PDD. So for example, on a concept plan, they could show that 4 units in a structure, and our comment in the rezoning letter would call that out to say that 4 units in a structure is not permitted in the district. However, they can apply for that as part of a future PDD. And basically, our comments on a concept plan aren't necessarily binding on a PDD. So we'll give some comments, but we won't go so far as to say whether, we like that as a concept or like the 4 units per building on the plan, because that's really a determination made at PDD. But they can put something there that they could otherwise propose in a PDD for conceptual purposes only.
It's fine. I think we've made clear what we're asking for.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Watkins and support by Commissioner Weber. Commissioner Lee, could you please call a vote?
What was the motion? To be clear?
Sure, I'll read it. The motion was to table action on the rezoning pending receipt of the additional information as requested from the petitioner. We did have a second.
I believe it was defer, not table. I just want to be clear.
Excuse me, forgive me.
It's a small distinction, but it means something different under the Roberts rules, which is what you guys follow.
Got it. Whatever. Defer action. I stand corrected.
Commissioner Lee, could you please call the vote?
Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Lee, yes. Commissioner Singh?
Yes.
Commissioner Walther?
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Weber?
Yes.
And Chairperson Zuber?
Yes. Motion carries.
Okay.
We'll see you again. Thank you.
And we'll work with the applicants on that concept plan, and the next available meeting, we can bring that forward and continue the discussions on that. And then just for the benefit of everyone, we have had the public hearing this evening, so there won't be another public hearing on the rezoning. If they apply for a PDD in the future, there would be another public hearing on that PDD. So if you want to follow the rezoning, we encourage you to look on our website, check the agendas upcoming for future Planning Commission meetings, and see if this appears on a future agenda. And then, as always, you can always contact the Planning Services Division with questions.
But please be assured, we did hear what you said. We understand your frustrations and concerns. So we will work on your behalf.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
If it was your survey crews that were out there on the other people's.
Yes, and we did call them and told them not to
enter any properties that they're in the commission. We'll make sure fences are, we're done with that process, so.
Is Atwell your surveyor?
I'm sorry?
Is Atwell your surveyor?
I think we're still in our meeting. Yeah.
Yeah,
We're still in our meeting.
having our-
Excuse us.
So, yeah, so let us finish our meeting and then you guys can chat. Do we have any miscellaneous items this evening?
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to remind everyone, the Planning Commission, that we have our joint meeting with the Township Board tomorrow evening at 6 PM. We'll be here in this room to discuss the mixed-use neighborhood node ordinance language with our consultants.
Thank you. All right.
Can I ask, there was one of the nodes, was that in this program? Didn't I see node 19?
That was about this Fowler Creek.
It was in here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
about
Yeah,
this development.
yeah, it's up there in the corner.
Yeah, that one, this parcel at the southwest corner, but it's excluded from this application, but yeah, it's close.
Yeah, and that's not one of the nodes we'll be discussing tomorrow. We've got a couple of examples that we're going to walk through, so that's not.
Excuse me.
Folks,
gentlemen,
can
could
you move out in the hallway,
please
please?
go outside the room to talk? Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Okay.
Motion to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Watkins and support by Commissioner Weber to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.